Hi, this is Eddie Hearn, and you're watching Lights Out.
Asal Khan, and welcome to episode 6 of the Lights Out Boxing Podcast, joined by my main man, Luke Anthony Walsh.
As always.
Luke.
Yes.
Happy New Year, mate.
And you too. And what a year of boxing it's going to be. Let's start off by reviewing. Again, we've been away for quite a while. The biggest fight towards the end of last year, Ruiz Joshua 2. Joshua is back to being a full-belt champion. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, hats off to the guy. You know, if you want to talk about the complete boxing performance, you know, that was it. I mean, tactically spot on. You know, I think I had him losing one round throughout the whole 12, and even that was a close round. But no, in the end, listen, he did what he should have done in the first fight.
Yeah.
He boxed smartly, you know, boxing 101 at its best. Fantastic performance, and you got to give the guy credit. He come under a lot of scrutiny after the fight. A lot of people calling him a hype job. You know, a lot of people saying that he didn't take the fight serious enough. And when it really mattered, when everything was on the line, and you look at the legacy that he's already built, you know, winning the Olympic gold, becoming a world champion within 16 fights, and taking British boxing back to where it belongs. Yeah, everything was on the line for him that night. And if you want to put one of the best sporting moments in boxing, that's got to be up there, because that everybody was against the guy. He went in that fight with a lot of pressure. Yeah, and in the end. And the new. Yeah. What do you make of it?
He said afterwards that following up to the first fight at the Madison Square Garden, he was struggling with mental health issues. And that sort of was the main reason why. I think he fell out with his dad as well. There's something personal like that. And that was sort of the main reason why he didn't train as well as he did leading up to the Madison Square Garden fight. Now, obviously, there was other conspiracies that were surrounding why he lost in June. Whether he was, I think it was something was wrong with his foot or something like that. Anyway. But yeah, to see him do such a strategic job and such a thorough performance was a relief, because I seriously thought at one point, if Andy Ruiz gained another victory over Anthony Joshua, Joshua would be back down to a level where with Dillian White, with Derek Chisora, and he'll be struggling to get back to the top of the ladder. But yeah, fair play to him for full-belt world champion.
I mean, the journey back to becoming a world champion was difficult, because like I said, he come under a lot of scrutiny. You know, a lot of people were calling him a hype job. A lot of people were, you know, ridiculing not only him but also Eddie Hearn. Yeah. Because the original fight was meant to be with Jarrell Miller, and you know, a lot of people thought that he'd walk through Andy Ruiz. And I think, you know, the first fight it's a prime example of how heavyweight boxing is so different to any other weight in boxing. All it takes is that one punch and it completely changes the fight. But no, look, fair play to Anthony Joshua. You know, listen, had he lost his second fight, you're right, he could have been at a stage in his career where you could have thought, well, I've made quite a bit of money. Do I really want to rebuild? Do I really want to have to go back to the days of fighting on, you know, low rank contenders? Do I really want to get back, you know, having to play second fiddle to the likes of Wilder and Fury and Ruiz and who knows, maybe even a Dillian White at that time? But no, belts are back in the UK. You know, we've got 2 world champions in the UK right now. You know, we've got the lineal heavyweight champion as well. Yeah. You know, and hopefully the new WBC champion the other day confirmed. Well, sorry, I should say. I believe it was Christmas Eve or a couple of days after Christmas. It was confirmed. February 22nd, Las Vegas, the rematch, Wilder Fury 2. Now, we can talk about the last fight, and we can talk about, you know, why Fury didn't get the decision, but I think the main talking point in this fight has got to be the switch from trainer. Tyson Fury, of course, announced him and Ben Davison had parted ways, and now he's teaming up with Sugar Hill Stewart. I mean, I can understand why boxers do it. Yeah. But is it a good thing to change trainers for a fighter like Deontay Wilder, who doesn't even have to be good? He's only got to be good for a couple of seconds. Does it make sense? Or do you think this could be actually a different approach for Tyson Fury going into this fight?
It's a dangerous one, because obviously Tyson Fury still undefeated as a fighter, and obviously after that draw, a controversial draw, of course, many people still have it in their cards that he won fair and square. I mean, it's a dangerous move, but we'll see how it goes come 22nd of February, whether it's a good move or not, because I think for Tyson Fury to move away from MTK and move away from Ben Davison is a bold move, but I think we'll wait and see to see what the outcome of that is.
I think obviously, first of all, we got to give a lot of praise to Ben Davison.
Yes.
Before Tyson announced a comeback last year, we all knew that there was a lot of weight issues.
Mhm.
We all knew that it seemed very unlikely Tyson would come back, and he did come back. And I remember that fight with Seferi, and a lot of people said, "Nah, this guy's not got it anymore." They were sort of slating him for that fight with Seferi, a comeback fight, and the British public had been waiting a long time to see Tyson Fury come back. And then there was a fight with Pianetta, which you did win quite comfortably, but what made it even sweeter was after that, that night in Ireland when Carl Frampton beat Luke Jackson.
Yes.
They announced the Deontay Wilder fight, and looking back on them two performances, the two comeback fights, any boxing fan would have thought, wait, hold on a second, your last fight was in 2015, you've come back to boxing in 2018.
Yeah.
You don't look as if you've lost a lot of weight. You don't look as if you're the old Tyson.
Yeah.
Why are you fighting Deontay Wilder? And then you look back to that fight with Wilder.
Mm.
And I think Ben Davison has to take a lot of credit for a lot of criticism that he would have talked leading up to that Deontay Wilder fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he gave an interview to us back in March. It was March when we were speaking to Ben Davison ahead of the Billy Joe Saunders fight in Stevenage. And even he said it about how he works with Tyson Fury and how there was a lot of work that went in, especially after the draw, to make sure he stayed in shape and was able to do it. And now, obviously, Tyson Fury hasn't necessarily fought a credible opponent since the rematch, or also since the first match in December. So it will be a huge test for him. If we're able to see what he can come up with.
In all honesty, Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallin were ranked opponents in the top 10 of the governing bodies.
Yeah.
And Wallin, listen, you covered the fight for us on our Twitter.
Yeah.
I was away at the time, and watching the fight back, Otto Wallin put up a very good performance.
Yeah.
But Tyson being, the heart he's got, the Gypsy King, the Gypsy heart that he has,
Yeah.
got through that fight. So I think it's a bit of a wake-up call. But just want to touch on something, Ben Davison did a fantastic job. A lot of credit goes to Ben Davison, but do you think Sugar Hill Stewart's coming into this fight as Tyson's trainer, looking at it,
Perhaps. I think even picturing that image of Tyson Fury standing tall and Deontay Wilder knocked down, I think would change the boxing landscape for the next decade to come. Because that would send a clear and just a clear message to Anthony Joshua. And even over the new year, Anthony Joshua was talking to that well-renowned boxing journalist Graham Norton, saying about where he stands in terms of the mandatory fight, but also looking forward to who he'd want next. And Joshua was saying it was blowing hot and cold about both fighters, about maybe I would like to fight them, maybe not, I'm not too sure. But even he knows if Tyson Fury were to knock Deontay Wilder out, he'll be shaking in his boots.
Yeah, the thing is, you got to look at it from this point of view. I think the rematch, because the rumor has it that there'll be a third fight after the second fight.
Yeah.
So then you've got another fight to look forward to, and of course, obviously with Anthony Joshua, the position that he's in, might have to wait around. But of course, we know this fight's out there for Anthony Joshua, to keep him ticking over. But I think you got to look at the perspective that I'm coming from.
Yeah.
The fight with Wilder. You look at the first fight, it's pretty clear that Tyson Fury won that first fight. I gave Deontay Wilder 2 rounds out of the 12, and they were the rounds he scored knockdowns in. And even the last round, I had him losing towards the end of it because of how well Tyson did to come back. But I think Sugar Hill Stewart's been brought in to work on Tyson's power technique, and I think he's been brought in because they are actually looking to get a knockout in this fight. Frank Warren said it as himself. He guarantees that Tyson Fury will go over there and knock out Deontay Wilder. But how do you knock out a fighter that's never been knocked down before, that took Luis Ortiz's best punches in one fight? How are you going to knock down a guy like Deontay Wilder? I mean, you got to stop him from knocking you down first.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Deontay Wilder, even that Ortiz fight, is quite simply ruthless. He will just take one punch. Good night. See you later. Where's my paycheck?
Obviously, we're discussing about Anthony Joshua. We've just heard a bit of a rumour on Twitter that he's likely to vacate his WBO heavyweight title. And that title could go to either the winner of Derek Chisora versus Alexander Usyk. A fight is scheduled to be made in March. That's what we just heard. I've just read that on Twitter right now. So, that's not been 100% confirmed. But rumours have been leading up to the last few weeks that AJ will vacate the WBO title, and his next opponent could likely be a mandatory defense for the IBF against Kubrat Pulev. Chisora Usyk is a fight that's been building up for some time. We know that Chisora likes it. We know that Usyk likes it. If it's for a WBO world title, how big has this fight just become?
Derek Chisora, what a man. I mean, I remember, looking back over the past decade, I remember when Derek Chisora fought Tyson Fury the first time around in 2013, and it was on Channel 5 when they brought it back, and I think it was with Hennessy Sports. And it's that's sort of how I was introduced to Tyson Fury, did an open workout here, and so on. Now look at Derek Chisora. I mean, he's lost to Vitaly Klitschko. He's lost to David Haye. He's sort of had to build himself back up to the position he's in, and he's still going strong. So if he can finally become heavyweight champion against Alexander Usyk, who is sublime. You saw his fight against Tony Bellew, and there was just, it was like night and day. There was no contest at all. Usyk was all over Tony Bellew. And so if Derek Chisora can win and finally win a heavyweight title, then I think it will be a long time coming.
Yeah, I mean, Chisora's lost 8 fights. He's had to rebuild quite a few times in his career. But I think right now, since obviously that second fight with Dillian Whyte, that unfortunately he was knocked down in the 11th round. Yeah. I think David Haye has done a fantastic job with him, and I think this is the best Derek Chisora I've seen. Yeah. You look at the wins against Arthur Spilkar, and of course the demolition job of David Price. So he's changed. He looks a lot more in shape. He looks as if he's taking it a lot more serious. If you watch his previous interviews, he's mentioned how he's found God again. He's stopped drinking. He's stopped all the partying. So. But I think when you're going against an opponent like Alexander Usyk, a former Olympian, a winner of the World Boxing Super Series, the man that held all the belts in the cruiserweight division, but's now moved up to a heavyweight. I think this is a tough test for Alexander Usyk. Now, I'm not taking nothing away from Alexander Usyk. We saw in his first fight at heavyweight against Chad Weatherspoon. It wasn't the most convincing of performances, but it's one thing to fight a Chad Weatherspoon, but then it's another thing 10 years now in Derek Chisora now. Is this smart thinking? If you was Team Usyk, would you look at an opportunity of a vacant world title and would you put him in a ring against a Chisora? Would you think, no, do you know what? Wait a second, we'll get our title shots. We're a big name. AJ will want to fight us. Fury Wilder would be interested in it as well. Let's just take on another 1-2 warm-up fights before we, look to go into the deep
Would it
end.
not be a Joseph Parker situation though?
The figures with Joseph Parker, whatever you say about him, he's a former world champion. No, I like Parker versus Usyk. I think that's a potentially a good fight. I think that's a very good fight for Derek Chisora as well. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is though, it's a different ball game as this heavyweight division. Yeah. And all it takes is for one punch. Yeah. So I'll ask you the question: if it does happen, who wins and how do they win?
Usyk knockout.
You think Usyk knocks out Derek Chisora?
I think Chisora. I'll change my mind. I think Chisora will either win.
See, you're sitting on the fence on this, aren't you?
Chisora will win.
You don't want to make a decision.
Chisora will either win by points or Usyk will get a knockout.
Well, listen.
Because I think Derek Chisora has fought long and hard, like, as I said before, best part of 7 or 8 years to get to where he is and to rebuild himself up to the standard. And he's proved himself. On many an occasion. Alexander Usyk is again coming up from the heavyweight cruiserweight.
Well, obviously another fight that could be potentially announced in this heavyweight division, which is so exciting and action packed right now, is Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce. Yes. Now Sam Jones met with Frank Warren the other day, and we understand that it could be for the vacant European title. Yeah, this is a fight where the winner moves on to world levels. Yes. This is this surely has to be the last rodeo.
This will be the year of the dynamite. I think Daniel Dubois, by the end of the year, in a fantasy world, will get Fury/Wilder against Joshua in the summer, and then in the winter, towards the end of the year, we'll get Dubois at a world shot. I think Dubois has looked absolutely sublime. Again, it's been completely flawless with his knockouts. I think he's still undefeated, isn't he? Undefeated. This is his year. I think if he wins and he beats Joe Joyce, he will be definitely chomping at the bit for a world title shot.
Obviously, if you get onto our YouTube channel and you look at our last press conference that we put up, it was Frank Warren promoting the Daniel Dubois versus Kaitoro Fujimoto fight, and Frank Warren in that press conference said, and I quote, "If I put Daniel Dubois in the ring tomorrow with Anthony Joshua, I guarantee he'll beat Anthony Joshua."
Yeah.
That is how much faith they've got in this kid, and that is how much they are looking up to Daniel Dubois. And whatever you say about Daniel Dubois, yes, he's got a fantastic knockout ratio. Yes, he's had 5 fights in 2019. And yes, he beat his toughest opponent in Nathan Gorman, that long-heated rivalry that had been going on since, they were in the, I believe it was the GB squad together.
Yeah.
But remember one thing, and it's as Steve Bunt said, he's still a baby.
Yeah.
The Joe Joyce fight is probably the perfect fight for him right now.
Yeah.
But would you really, really put him in the ring with the likes of a Dillian White or a Derek Chisora or maybe a Joseph Parker, regardless of whatever the result is against a Joe Joyce?
Yes, I would. I think to be in the mix and to be able to have that opportunity to fight with those sort of guys, I think will either teach him a lot or he'll just walk past them and show what he's capable of. Let's not forget, Anthony Joshua was seen to be quite young for taking on. For winning the world title.
Within 16 fights.
Exactly. So, the whole idea of it being a baby and stuff like that, I think is completely foreign when Joshua climbed to the top in the speed that he did.
But I think the argument against that is the heavyweight division wasn't as exciting when Joshua won the title. But now you can name at least probably 6 or 7 good fighters that are capable of beating each other.
Yeah.
You look at the main 2, you got your Wilder, Fury, then obviously you got Joshua as well. So the main 3, I should say.
Yeah.
Then you got the top contenders of Ruiz, White, Povetkin, Pulev, Michael Hunter. This is such an action-packed division right now. Would it be the safe option to sort of push Dubois slowly to a world title shot, or do you actually believe that he's ready for it at the end of this year?
I think he's ready. I really do. Seeing how his recent performance was just so effortless, and such a strong victory, I think he's ready. Let's not forget, even Tommy Fury, the Love Island who to come.
Yeah, I mean, with Tommy Fury, obviously a light heavyweight contender, who's built his profile massively, especially with his appearance on Love Island. I think he went from a couple of 100,000 followers to nearly 5 million followers on Instagram. So fair play to Tommy Fury, and that's what it's all about. We'll move on now. We'll talk a bit about the middleweights and super middleweight division.
Yes.
Right now we're blessed to have 2 British world champions in the super middleweight division, Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders. Now, both fighters are currently with Matchroom. Both fighters are promoted by Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn has stated before in the past that both fighters will fight each other next unless one of them can get the Canelo fight. I look at Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders right now, and I think they are probably the only fighters that are capable of beating Canelo. But what I would like to see is sometime in, April, May, at Anfield, anywhere big, is Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders fight each other next. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because I believe these two can potentially get the best out of each other.
Yes.
You've got Callum Smith, the World Boxing Super Series winner, beating some good fighters in, George Groves, Rocky Fielding, and then you've got Billy Joe Saunders. He's beaten who he's had to beat, Chris Eubank Jr., Shafat Asufi, who he got his second world title off, David Lemieux. So I reckon the time is right to make this fight. A lot of money involved in it, and it's a big fight.
This will be George Groves against Carl Froch all over again. I think this will be a best of British, slobber knocker, because I think these two could get the best performances out of each other, and I think with the titles involved, we'll make enough noise that Canelo Alvarez will have no choice but to face the winner of the two.
I mean, the beauty of Canelo is right now he could probably pick one of 10 fighters to fight him next.
Yeah.
I mean, his profile is massive. He is probably the biggest face in boxing right now. Him and Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, for me, have the biggest profiles in boxing right now. But, I mean, I look at Billy Joe Saunders, and I just think technically what a fantastic fighter. And I look at Callum Smith, and I think I believe he's got everything in his locker. But then again, you've got to put a question mark over it. A lot of people reckon Callum Smith lost his last fight to John Ryder, and Billy Joe Saunders didn't exactly put in the greatest performance either. So this is why I personally think it is the right time to make that fight between Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think put it, like you said, in I want to say Wembley Stadium, but I don't think that.
I think Anfield. I think this is perfect to take it to Anfield. We understand that Matchroom have applied for a license to bring boxing to Anfield. I mean, yeah, maybe a bit unfair on the Billy Joe Saunders, but he's a traveller. He's been around the world.
Yeah.
Billy Joe Saunders doesn't stick in one place. I don't think the atmosphere or wherever it is will phase him. I think this makes for a perfect fight at Anfield.
Yeah.
I think, Callum Smith is, fighting, he's a Liverpool fan, fighting in Anfield. Of course, I don't really think it matters to Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, this fight could happen in the field for all he cares.
Yeah.
He's a fighting man. He's a traveller. He's a gypsy. I think personally, take the fight to Anfield.
Yeah.
Sell out Anfield. Great night of boxing. Get some of the local talent on.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of money to be made, right or wrong, Luke?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, going back to George Groves and Carl Froch and sort of the fights that they had, they managed to take it to Wembley. I reckon in the future we could see that happening for Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders. I think this will be the rivalry for the next decade.
Well, but you say rivalry, yeah, but I don't think there's hatred between these two. I think Groves and Froch always had that hatred between each other. They just simply did not like each other. And I think Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders, it's a fight that we need to see, and it's a fight that's got to happen.
Yeah.
Question is, which one of these two do you think beats Canelo if they had to fight him next?
Billy Joe.
Yeah, I'd go with Billy Joe.
I think
that's taking nothing away from Callum Smith, though.
No, nothing away from Callum Smith at all. I think if Callum Smith can beat Billy Joe Saunders, then Callum Smith will have the best opportunity to fight and maybe beat Canelo Alvarez. But looking on paper, I mean, Billy Joe's got the world title. I think he'll be able to do enough to break him down and win.
One to look out for in the near future. Hopefully it's a fight we'll get to see very soon. Well, obviously we're going to discuss now my favourite division, the 147 welterweight division right now. 3 world champions, Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, and the legend himself, Manny Pacquiao. Now, a lot of rumours on Twitter and Facebook circulating that Spence and Crawford have signed a deal to fight each other.
Yeah.
Potential unification clash. We all know that Errol Spence Jr. was in a horrendous car accident towards the back end of last year, so we want to wish him all the best, speedy recovery, get back in the ring. One of the best fighters in the world right now, one of my favourite fighters. A fight with Terence Crawford would be brilliant. But when you look at it, Manny Pacquiao, I believe he's 41 years old now.
Yeah.
He put in a fantastic performance to win the WBA world title against, then at the time was an undefeated Keith Thurman. It was a fantastic performance. I look at Spence and Crawford right now. If I'm one of them, I'm thinking, do you know what? The Crawford fight will eventually happen.
Yes.
Manny Pacquiao, no disrespect to him, is probably the weak link out of the three. Because obviously, you'd look at Spence being the unified champion. You look at Crawford just blowing everyone away.
Yeah.
Would it not make more sense for them to look at Pacquiao? And this is not me saying it's a walk in the park. It's probably the most difficult fight.
It's a similar thing to the middleweights. I think certainly Crawford and Spence will fight each other, and essentially the winner will be able to look at Manny Pacquiao and say, right, you're on. I'll take you on. One thing I'm going to throw an unpopular opinion out there. Floyd Mayweather. He's very much an enigma. Whether you believe he's retired or not, he'll throw a curveball out of nowhere, which could see him returning back to the welterweight division if he really wanted to. I would like to see Pacquiao versus Mayweather 2, and finally see Mayweather lose for once.
Well, I don't think
I want to see him take an L.
Listen, I mean, I think you can say what you want about the man, but for me, he's probably the greatest fighter of all time. 50-0, fought the best, beat the best boxing IQ I've ever seen. I just don't think it makes sense for Floyd Mayweather to come back. I think he should stick to what he's doing. That's making money, promoting fighters, promoting the likes of Badou Jack, who was involved in a great fight with Jean Pascal a few weeks ago. I don't know if he's still working with Gervonta Davis, but I think, Floyd's had his time, man. I mean, why? I mean, listen, he did an MMA fight for the pure fun of it. Yeah, and he made $9 million for slapping someone around.
And he was 2 hours late. I mean, that's Floyd Mayweather for you.
Floyd Mayweather, though, it doesn't matter. I mean, little Floyd Mayweather could turn up 2 days late. People are still waiting for him. We're talking about, if you want to talk about an entrepreneur of boxing, you want to talk about the man who's made the most in boxing. If you want a smart boxing brain when it comes to making money and how to win fights, you look at Floyd Mayweather. And listen, 50-0, it's perfect. It's just the perfect landmark to retire at. You come back. I mean, you look at 50-0, does 51-0? No, 50-0. Stick to it. Unless, if he comes back and he signs, I don't know, if he looks to fight the 3 world champions, then I'd say, yeah, There's no point coming back for a fight with Manny Pacquiao and then calling it a day. I mean, if you're going to come back, do it properly. Win the world title one more time. Beat the best fighters in the division right now, which is Spence, number 1 for me, and number 2, Crawford, and number 3, Manny Pacquiao. You know, if you're going to come back, look to fight them all. But, I don't know. But as I was saying, we've got Spence and Crawford. You know, there's rumors going around that fight is going to be going ahead sometime, I don't know, I believe in March or April, or even May. Why are these two not looking at Manny Pacquiao and thinking, I'd rather take that fight first?
Because I think Manny Pacquiao sort of is to himself like the fighter. But I think surely they'd be better off taking each other out first than looking at Manny Pacquiao, because I think Manny Pacquiao will only fight the best. And I think from Manny Pacquiao's perspective, he would want to fight the best between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford.
I think, listen, I agree, of course. I mean, we all know Manny Pacquiao, what a legend. I mean, that performance against Terence Crawford, you know, I applauded that performance, because a lot of people, including myself, thought he was going to lose that fight. You know, against Keith Thurman, and it was a fantastic display. And you know, the pride of the Philippines, you know, the center of the Philippines, you know, just outside of boxing, the man has created such a huge legacy. You know, he's won world titles in 8 divisions. This guy is just phenomenal. We talk about Ali being the greatest, we talk about Mayweather being one of the greatest, you know, but this guy's up there, man. He's lost a few, but you know, Ali lost a few. Where do you rank Manny Pacquiao in terms of greatness in the sport of boxing?
He's certainly up there, and to what he represents to his people. I mean, he's a politician in the Philippines now, and I still remember Mayweather Pacquiao. And again, sort of that night and day sort of scenario where people would cry when they see him because of what he represents and the amount of hard work he's put in. And he's just one of those fighters who will stand out amongst the greatest of all time.
I mean, I don't know why I'm sharing this, but I remember the night he broke my heart when he knocked that Ricky Hatton. I stayed up till 6:30 in the morning just to watch that fight. It finished within 2 rounds, and I think then that was the point when you realised, wait, hold on, Manny Pacquiao's no sport of boxing. And I think the fights with Spence and Crawford and Pacquiao this year, you know, if we want to see the big three fight each other in the heavyweight division, the big three fight each other in the super middleweight division, surely we've got to see it happen in the welterweight division right now, because this 2020 has got to be the year where the fight fans get the fights that they want.
Especially going back to earlier on, talking about Fury and Wilder against Anthony Joshua. We'll finally get it, and I've been saying it all along. Put it in Wembley Stadium. Put it in
Fury Joshua at Wembley. It's a big one.
Yes,
it's the biggest fight in the heavyweight division. But obviously that's my opinion. You guys can share your opinions in the comment section. All right. Well, we're gonna move on.
Let's
Luke
move
wants
away.
to talk about the YouTube fighters.
Let's move away from professional boxing and talk about amateur boxing. Anderson Gibb against Jake Paul. This comes off the back of Logan Paul against KSI. Who had the fight at the Staples Center. My word, what a sloppy fight. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. Listen, I'm not going to be one of those that slanders them or takes a mick out of them.
Well, let's be honest.
I'm going to say fair play to
they're
them
both winners, because what Eddie Hearn managed to do is to not only sell it for DAZN and to put it in the Staples Center and to make these both guys professional. Is that he made it popular, and he actually got behind it.
Listen, the publicity that fight got was unbelievable. If you followed that fight week on all the YouTube channels, the boxing YouTube channels, obviously we would have loved to have been out there, but due to circumstances we couldn't. But if you look at the publicity that fight got, and you look at some of Shannon Briggs's antics during that fight week, it was brilliant, man. So I've got a kudos to it. It was good. Now you've obviously got KSI saying he'd love to fight Tommy Fury. My answer to that is chill out, mate. I mean, just because Tommy Fury's been on Love Island don't mean the kid can't bang, because he's got some good power on him. Relax now. Don't worry about fighting Tommy Fury. No, it was good, man. Listen, fair play to them both. It was a scrappy fight, entertaining at times. And my hat's off to them. They got in the ring as professional boxers, left it all on the line. Talks of them doing it again. Why not? But Yeah, man.
It's just ridiculous.
Jake
isn't it?
Paul and Anderson Gibb, talk to us about it, Luke. I know you've been
So,
following it quite a bit.
There's been that sort of, certainly within the Logan KSI talk. Of course, Logan's brother Jake has been calling out Anderson Gibb, another fellow YouTuber. Of course, Anderson Gibb is sort of similar to KSI. He's been trained as a boxer. Is still in training. Certainly at the London press conference, which I very nearly went to. Anderson Gibb certainly got up on stage and said to Jake, "Let's just make it happen. Let's just get on with what are you waiting for?" And here we are, 30th of January in Miami on DAZN. Jake Paul against Anderson Gibb, and it's going to be something.
I mean,
certainly, on a very short build as well. It's going to be something.
I mean, look, we a lot of people, ripped into these YouTube fighters getting this kind of publicity, but I think you've just got to give credit to anyone that's willing to get in the ring, regardless whether they're making money over it or whether it's for the cameras. Because we've seen what can happen to a fighter in the ring, and so I'll follow it. Don't know if I'm going to stay up late to watch it. I might just catch it on YouTube or the highlights on Facebook the following day. But listen, fair play to him. Do you know what? I think after the success that KSI and Paul Logan had in the first fight, I mean, if this fight can take off, then if it gets a good backing publicly, and of course on live TV, then it's fair play to Eddie Hearn for going ahead with the idea.
Yeah, I completely agree, and sort of the way DAZN has really gotten behind boxing and sort of promoted boxing in America.
Not just boxing, football as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at last year, the DAZN's numbers, the highly most viewed streamed events. I believe one was Joshua Ruiz 2. Yeah. And second was the Champions League final of 2019, which of course Liverpool won.
Yeah, all right. But yeah, I think certainly, this is the future. That sort of anyone can step in the ring and sort of make it big and have their moment in the spotlight.
Interesting one to look out for. But no, like I said, listen, it is, and the zone, they're putting on some good shows. But obviously, before we sign off, let's get a prediction what happens February 22nd. I am saying Tyson Fury points decision win.
Tyson Fury knockout. I really want to see it happen, and I think it will. I think, but then equally, any sort of forms of victory for Tyson Fury, because obviously he went to Klitschko's backyard and he got a points victory off Vladimir Klitschko, obviously one of the biggest heavyweights in the world. I'd just love to see Fury win, and just to see Deontay Wilder's face and how angry he would be.
Well, let's just hope that them same three judges in the last fight aren't having anything to do with this fight. But it makes for an interesting fight. I'm just praying that all these potential fights we could see this year happen. I mean, even Chisora Usyk is a massive fight. Yeah. And look, fingers crossed. Message to Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, get them done. I'll happily pay for them. Obviously, before we end today's podcast, if you're not already, don't forget to be following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The links are in the description of the video. Just if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like and comment. The more
turn on notifications for regular videos and regular interviews.
It's a big year for Lights Out. Luke, if you just want to share with the fans what we've got planned for the fans this year.
Oh, we've got plenty lined up. We've got weekly interviews from Faisal. Of course, the podcast will be every week, every other week. So we'll be uploading a lot more. And we'll be covering all the local fights as well. We'll be supporting K Prosper, Linus Adufia. Of course, one thing we haven't spoken about, Jordan Reynolds is hoping to go for Tokyo 2020 in the summer. So we've got plenty of action coming, and of course MMA as well with Faisal Malik as well. So a lot of talent, a lot of things still to come, not only for nationally and globally, but also locally as well. So stay tuned to Lights Out Boxing.
Thank you. My name is Faisal Khan. He's Luke Anthony Walsh, and thank you for listening to episode 6 of the Lights Out Boxing podcast.